Have you ever wanted to know more about the lore of Airship? Well, I know just the way for you to learn, which is by watching these videos, of course. I've made a few other videos on the lore of Airship, so feel free to watch those. After this one, of course. So this video is more of a prequel to the Crescent Isle, so be sure to watch that after this. But without further ado, join my Discord server, and this is the lore of Amber Archipelago. The Amber Archipelago is one of many such land formations dotting the several thousand square nautical miles of ocean off the Redamura coastline. Although unremarkable in its composition, apart from the opposing Mount Clagus, the archipelago holds importance as a navigational aid for those trying to navigate towards the mainland. The Imperial Redamuran War Directory and Royal Grenlandic Strategy Cabinet were well aware of this, as using most of the islands as bearing markers could allow for enemy vessels and planes a straight trajectory towards key points of Redamuran seaside territories and waterways. Reports of increased Vauhgray activity operating out of Crescent Isle, and gradually large numbers of airships and aircraft being spotted around the archipelago, despite it being well within the monsoon season, signaled that Vauhgray was gearing up for an invasion. Once weather improved, the two allied countries would have to beat their enemy to the punch. Operation Through was a combined effort of the Grenlandic and Redamuran forces, which relied on predictable annual maritime weather patterns within the region. Cyclones were consistently known to pass in and around the area where Crescent Isle was situated, an island located in the Red Sea which Vauhgray captured a while prior. These cyclones would force Vaughran airships to take much slower and cautious travels to avoid destruction. At the same time, a false communique would be placed near prying enemy eyes detailing that Grenland would allegedly be too preoccupied with their efforts across the chasm, directly fighting Vauhgray, in Ronald Canyon for example, to help Redamura defend their coastlines. Naturally, Vauhgray took the bait full force, redirecting its 14th Luftschrift task force away and out of the harsh weather at their station at Crescent Isle, seeking to use the weather and allegedly empty skies around Amber Archipelago to their advantage. The last thing they expected after arriving there was to see a full Grenlandic airship squadron awaiting them, peering through the brimstone haze of Mount Clagus. While Grenland had the majority of Vaughran's air power in the region in a bind, their Redamuran allies set about sending a naval strike group into the maelstrom surrounding Crescent Isle to commence the second part of their daring plan. However, for this video we will take a look at the battle that took place in the Amber Archipelago, and with the Vaughran airships arriving, Operation Through 1 began. However, no canonical winner has been announced. It is assumed that Grenland won the battle with the element of surprise, meaning that the Vauhgray airships were fully expecting clear open skies, so were not ready for combat, as the area around Archipelago was said to be empty. While we're here, I'd like to mention the native inhabitants of Amber Archipelago, known by the people as the infamous Clag. While they were technically under Redamuran jurisdiction, they were not really that loyal to Redamura's emperor, and instead they followed the mighty volcano that sits in the middle of the archipelago called Mount Clagus. They used to sacrifice a lot of small animals and effigies into it. However, recently they've also began sacrificing Vauhgray soldiers to the volcano, who happened to be just so unfortunate enough to land in the archipelago. Anyways, with the plan now set in its second phase, the 14th Luftschrift Task Force was out at the Amber Archipelago fighting Grenland while being defeated. The Redamurans could now move into Crescent Isle to start the second part of their plan. Would you like to participate in one of these videos? Join my Discord server using the link down below. Also, like and subscribe, click this analytic. Well, that's all I have for this video, and bye!